Fellow finance, is it any good? That is what we will discuss in today's video. But before that, greetings my fellow investors and welcome to Nordic Finance, where we help you realize your financial goals. My name is Lucas.
And I'm Markus, and before we get into the video, let me ask you this. Have you invested in the subscribe button and deposited a like yet?
Okay, let us get started. For those uninitiated, by showing you guys or telling you guys about what fellow finance is and what peer-to-peer lending, which it is a platform for, what that actually is. So for those of you who are completely new to peer-to-peer lending or P2P lending as it is also called, we have a complete video on the subject, but in a nutshell, peer-to-peer lending simply enables individuals to obtain loans directly from other individuals, cutting out the financial institution or the middleman in between, such as banks. And this basically allows you to become a banker of your own, if you want to think about it as simply as possible. Now, today we will review Fellow Finance, including how easy is it to sign up, what are the inherent risks with this P2P method for growing your money, as well as how easy is the platform, in this case Fellow Finance, to use. And Markus is much more well versed with this service than I am, so I'm now going to throw the ball to him and he'll take it from here.
Okay, so that was some great points on how P2P lending works. And I do think that it's a great way to diversify into a different kind of bond market almost, where you are the bank yourself and giving out loans to individuals but also businesses. And this way you can actually earn interest on these loans that you facilitate, and that way get a bit more of almost a passive income or a sort of dividend income. So how it works is basically that you group a bunch of individuals that together can facilitate a loan to another individual or company that then can use this money as a loan. And there are different reasons why you would go through a service like Fellow Finance as a person taking the loan. It might be sometimes that you cannot get the loan that you want from banks, or that you might get a better rate, or that it could be quicker. There are several points to when you are taking the loan from Fellow Finance why you would be doing that. But to be very clear, we're not going to focus on that in this video. We're not going to focus on the part where you're actually taking a loan from Fellow Finance, because obviously that is possible as well. We're instead going to focus on Fellow Finance as a point of an investor, a user, when you are trying to earn interest on the loans you facilitate. For the purposes of this video, we're going to focus on how you can diversify your income through this service instead. First step that you're going to have to do, obviously, is you're going to have to sign up. And that's actually the screen we are looking at right now. You can see that they have a nice little logo there. What I really like about Fellow Finance, which is a Finnish company, by the way, is that they actually have support for several languages. So unlike the others like DEGIRO and Nordnet and these brokerages which only offers Finnish in Finland, you can actually even choose Polska here if you want, because I think they have a segment in Poland as well. You have Sweden and you have global, so you do have English, which of course is a massive benefit because it opens up the service to a lot of individuals. Because I think a lot of our viewers, even though they might live in certain countries, they might not actually speak the language of that country very well, and especially when you're dealing with investments, you really want a language that you can understand, which for a lot of people could be English instead of the other national language. So I think it's really good that they are offering English as a service language on Fellow Finance.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Then here you can also see that you can actually open a demo account, which is actually something I wasn't aware of. I think this is a new addition to this service. This sounds like it's a very good idea and something you should probably test out before opening an actual account. I'm not sure how it works in other countries if you can use other banking codes, but in Finland you will need to use your own Finnish ID banking codes when setting up the account. You don't need it for signing in, but you will need some kind of bank codes when you actually create the account and do a similar process to when you sign up for Nordnet or DEGIRO. And we have videos, at least on Nordnet, how to sign up for an account. And we might do a video of that also if there's interest, how to sign up for Fellow Finance. But for the purposes of this video, we're just gonna sign in so we can show you the service. This is the first screen you will have when you log into Fellow Finance. So we have a summary of everything that is going on. I don't think I'll explain every single line of text here, because there's quite a lot, to be frank. But I do like that they have a very like detailed, clean view of how your investments are going. But probably some of the most important ones you want to look at is the return that you're making on your loan, your actual received interest. So this is the money that I have actually received in interest from my loan payments. Then you can see how much you currently have outstanding in loans and your total assets. This meaning including these outstanding loan capital, your cash as well, and this received interest that has been received back into your account. So these are the 4 main ones that if you just log in, it's very easy to log into the service. You can keep an eye out for. But here you actually have a detailed account summary. You can see your deposit, withdrawals. Well, I haven't withdrawn anything. How much you have had invested, and this includes the received interest you have gotten back. So unless you withdraw money, it could actually automatically invest into loans again, this kind of money. Very similar to maybe an index fund that it reinvests its dividends. You can have a similar thing going here. And I will show you how to automate this process later in the video. Here you can buy and sell loans. We're going to look at that as well. And there you can also see if you have any losses or if you have paid any fees. This is also really good so that you can currently see how things are going. You get a very clean view. I think it's very easy to use this service and get a very detailed outlook of how things are going. Probably the most so of all the brokerages I have seen so far. You can also see here that I currently have a credit loss reservation. And what this basically means is that I currently have a few loans that haven't been paid. Their installment hasn't been paid on time. Generally, this might not be as concerning as it may look, since it's in bright red and stuff. But it's quite common that loans might be a little bit delayed, but they usually come in. But we're going to talk about that a bit more in the buy and sell loans section. Here you can also get more details of how things are going. You can see investment into markets. So you can see that I'm pretty much exclusively investing into loans in Finland. You can see the allocation of the funds you currently have. So I sadly have quite a bit of money in cash, which is not a good idea on this service, I think. You generally want your money invested, not just lying around. And here you can also see, this is really important, this is receivables but repayments status. So you can see there that I have 3% of my current outstanding loans are actually in overdue status. So they have not been paid on time, but 97% of my loans are being paid on time. That's a pretty good number, I'd say, so far. And finally here we have received interest payments and realized credit losses. This is very maybe biased right now, but you can see how your earnings have grown over time. You can see that I have no realized credit losses, so far I deem this service quite safe. I have never had a loan go into default after a year of usage, and most of them have been paid on time with only slight delays. You can see that I have a 97% on time rate right now, which is very, very good, I'd say.
Can I quickly jump in here as well and just say that first of all, I completely agree with you on how clean this site looks. I really like it as well, that it has a really clean outlook and it's quite easy to make sense of everything, even though I haven't really looked at this before as well.
Then before we move on, I just quickly want to talk a little bit about the deposit and the withdraw button here. Here obviously you can deposit money. They have several different methods of how you can do that. I usually use my Finnish bank, and when you withdraw, you can withdraw to a bank that you have previously selected, and you will probably see that money in a few days. Also, I briefly want to mention that you can once again select your languages here, and now you can even select Deutsch or German. And here you also can select to view this site in different kinds of currencies, which is pretty unique, I think. That you can even select that I want to see this in dollars instead, and it will actually automatically change these numbers into dollars. And same with the pound, the Swedish crowns, and even the Polish zloty. Quickly gonna talk about the invest section of Fellow Finance, and this might strike you strange that we just would briefly talk about the invest section, but I never use this anymore. I did it a little bit in the beginning, but what you basically can do here is that you can search for loans yourself that you can then manually choose to invest into, and you can arrange them in different kinds of ways. I will show you this a bit with the allocator, but here you have a rating, for instance, for this loan. You have how much it's funded already, and an expiry date. We're not going to talk too much about this here because we're going to touch upon it in the allocator section. But what you basically can do here is you can manually yourself select which kind of loans you want to invest into, which markets do you want to invest into companies or people that want private loans. You can do all that kinds of stuff. You see here you have small to medium business loans and consumer loans, and then there's different kinds of markets. I would not recommend that you use this pretty much whatsoever. I don't think that this is what this site is about. I don't think it's necessarily the best way to go, that you manually select all these kinds of loans. It generally takes a lot of work, and you're probably going to want to use this allocator instead, because this is what I have been using now for the better part of a year. I think I used the invest button a very short amount of time and manually selected which kind of loans I wanted to use. But I think it's way better to use this loan allocator, which has been working very well for me over the last year. What this allocator does is basically automate the whole process of selecting which kinds of loans to invest into. So you don't manually have to go and check, who do I want to invest into, this person or that business or something like that. Instead, you can make broad selections, like I want to invest into consumer loans in Finland, and I have a required rate of return of this, and I have a maximum risk tolerance of this. I think that those are the main things you would want to consider when using the allocator. And here you can actually have the loan allocator statistics, but you can basically see here that you set up this automatic allocator based on credit rating, and this is how risky they are. I keep only to 4 and 5, and you saw that I have a very nice rate of repayments. So, but if you want a higher rate of return, you can definitely venture into these lower credit rating ones, but they do get more risky, and you do have a higher likelihood of losing the invested capital if you select these. So here you can select your interest levels. You can see the market and what you currently have required. What you have selected as required. I have a 6%, for instance, for Sweden, but the market is 9.5. If you lower this, you have a higher likelihood to get a loan, because right now, for instance, I think that there are more people wanting to invest into loans than there are actually loans floating around, so to speak. And then you might actually sometimes have a problem where you have cash available on your allocator, but it can't find any loans to invest into. Then you might sadly have to lower this a little bit in order to find someone a loan where the rate of return is a bit lower. And here you have the interest repayments and the credit loss. So basically what I would say is that you would want to use this allocator, and I don't think we're going to show how to actually set one up. We could do a separate video if there's interest in that. They should have very good guide videos here on how to actually set this up. So I would definitely use this. Then we have a portfolio here, so I could see all my outstanding loans currently and all the required data. Once again, is very cleanly provided here. And like I said, I have currently invested into 2 different categories: consumer loans Finland and consumer loans Sweden. But you can invest in any manner of like markets that you want. So you could have in also Polish consumer loans, small to medium business loans. You could have it all at the same time. I've just chosen to right now focus on consumer loans Finland. So I think it's great that they provide you with a lot of options. We're going to finally focus here on the buy and sell option, because what you can actually do is you can buy and sell loans that other people do not wish to hold anymore. So when I invest maybe through my allocator in a certain loan, but then I decide that this loan, maybe it's overdue a little bit, I don't want to hold on to it anymore. You could actually sell it to someone who is more risk tolerant, and they believe that this person will eventually pay this loan back and it will go back into being paid off. I wouldn't actually recommend that you use this section too much, at least in the beginning, because I've only sold 1 loan so far when I was a bit afraid, since it had gone overdue for a bit of time and I wanted to try out to sell it. And then I did so, and my experience is that if you try to sell a loan, you can pretty much never sell it at the price where you bought in. So you're probably going to make a loss, but you will receive your full the amount you invested back with just a slight discount. So I think that this is a great option that they provide in case that you need to, for instance, withdraw money that you have invested here for a bigger purchase. Maybe you want to buy a house or like a car or something. Then you could sell off your loans, like bonds, for instance, and instead receive some money back, but you will of course never see those interest repayments in that case, and somebody else will take them when they take on the loans you have sold. So I would suggest that if you use this service, try to use it more very long term, and don't invest money that you think that you might have to withdraw at some point, because generally you will make a loss when you sell loans. Of course, that provides you with an options where you could start buying loans instead and get them at a discount, and even increase your earnings a little bit through this, that you get good loans at a discount when you buy them from other people. But in the beginning, this is not maybe something I would suggest that you do. Instead, the allocator is maybe the route you would want to take as a investor. But Lucas said, now we will come to the main pros of, I think, this service, is that they also, through email, provide you with very detailed reports every month on what has been going on your account. You can check it regularly if you wish to, and see how things are going. But at the end of the season, they also provide you with the necessary details that you need for taxation. Because sadly, this P2P investing it falls under the capital gains tax in Finland. I would liken it to a dividend, that it's being taxed when you receive it. So there's no way of avoiding this kind of taxation. Even if you would reinvest this money instantly on Fellow Finance, you will still be taxed on this amount that you have received in interest payments back. You will not be taxed on the repayments of the actual loan, only the interest. But this interest will sadly be taxed at 30% like capital gains. So there is definitely a tax disadvantage when using Fellow Finance or P2P services compared to dividends. But also they could sometimes be deemed safer, for instance, or you could even have a higher return on these loans compared to dividends, as I think even a 6.6 dividend is very, very lucrative if there were companies offering that. So of course there's benefit in that area, but when it comes to taxes, Fellow Finance itself as a service provides you with all the necessary details you need to do your tax filings in a very, once again, clean and good way. However, P2P investing has its disadvantages when comparing it to other forms of investing. Okay, Lucas, so if you don't have any question, I think I'll jump to the quick summary here at the end.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, so I think that there's like Fellow Finance as a service. I think I'm very happy with it so far. I think that they have like a good service. It's very easy to use. It's very clean, like we saw. You get all the data that you need to make your investing decisions. I think that it's really, really good that they have multiple languages and currency support. So they provide you with more than a lot of very established brokerages even. Then it's very easy to sign up as well. Absolutely no more difficult than when signing up to DEGIRO or Nordnet. And they provide you through email with a lot of the important material that you want. And I think that's actually very good, as sometimes you don't maybe check your account every day or so. So even if you're not doing that, they will still provide you with the information that you could need through email, so you would see it in this way as well. They have very good teaching materials, so we haven't made a guide video properly in this, like how to set up the allocator, but I don't think we need to. There is a great guide on how to do that on this service, actually, very easily provided. So check that one out if you want to see how to set up the allocator. I think that the allocator is definitely one of the strongest points of this service, because it makes it so easy and you can easily automate this whole process and you can start receiving these interest payments. Then the only cons I actually have with this service is not against Fellow Finance as itself, because I really can't really find anything to complain about at this point, at least. So if you're watching this video, if there's something negative about Fellow Finance that you could mention, please let us know in the comments, because so far I can't think of anything in particular, at least. However, there are definitely risks when investing in true P2P services. Like we mentioned, there can be some tax disadvantages. I would certainly say that that's a possibility here in Finland. If it's too great a tax disadvantage, that's up to you, the viewer. I choose to have some invested in fellow finance anyway, because I definitely want to diversify my total portfolio so that I have some in stocks, some in funds, but also some here at fellow finance to also be kind of exposed, not maybe to the bond market, but at least to the loan market. And I do think that this space is very interesting, but it does have its disadvantages through taxation, like we just spoke about, and also there is of course the risk that when loans default, you will probably not receive basically anything. They do have a collection agency that does collect some of the money back, but sadly I don't think that you will actually see much of that money if it happens. The final con I could actually say is that the rate of return on fellow finance, like all other, of course, financial services, is that the rate of return might actually vary depending on what the legal interest rates are and how they go up and fall. I think we have all read about this. Fellow finance, of course, and P2P lending overall is not immune to this, so you do have a bit of a risk against interest rates, but this is not something like fellow finance can hedge against. If that happens, it's gonna happen, so to speak. So overall, the service as a whole, I am really happy with. I think it's really good, and I definitely think that they have great support, language, all this, detailed reports, very clean, and so far I think I've done okay. And I think it's a great way to diversify into loan markets as well. So personally, I think I would recommend this service, but if you know any criticism or you think they could improve something, please let us know in the comments down below. But with that, I think I'm done. So thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for watching. And I know Markus did most of the heavy lifting in this one, but I think he did an excellent job. So I thank him and thank you. And as always, happy investing.
Happy investing. And remember to repay those loans or I won't get any money.